welcome to the Building Rad Websites series. Each week, I will challenge myself to build a totally rad website and create a tutorial based upon it. In this week's episode, I am creating a portfolio site using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Let's dive into what we are creating. So as you can see, this is the portfolio website homepage. If I refresh, this is how it starts. There's a hello there text which appears and then disappears. There's also a dark mode capability. So if I click on this, everything turns black and white, black being the background. And then we can go toggle back to light mode. Then if I hover over these, they turn different colors. Hover over each section, they will enlarge and have a blue, light blue background. And this is what we're making. Let's dive into the code. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is open up my terminal, which I have right here. And from here, let's see if I can zoom in. Great. I'm going to CD to my desktop. That's where I'm going to put the initial folder. And I'm going to make a directory. And let's call it dark mode. Yes. Okay, now I'm going to CD into dark mode folder that we just created. So here I am. Then I'm going to open my code editor by running the command code dot. My code editor I'm using is Visual Studio Code, and this is something that I set up within Visual Studio Code. So let's run this, enter. And there we go. We have our project. This is our start. Okay, within our dark mode repository, let's create some files. So let me just increase my brightness. Okay, so let's create our index.html. Then let's create our styles.css. And then we're also going to have a JavaScript file. And I will also call this index.js. So let's dive into our index.html. Let me zoom in a bit. Okay, great. So to begin, using Visual Studio Code, I'm going to write exclamation point, and then it's going to autofill with some of the HTML that we need just to get up and running. I will also link to Visual Studio Code in the show notes if you want to download this yourself. So let's change the title first off to dark mode portfolio. Okay, and then next, before we forget, let's link up everything. So let's link to our style sheet. If I can spell everything correctly, great. And then we need to directly link. So we're going to go // and then it's right there. Let's close this up. Okay, and then let's save. I know I'm going to be using the Google font Knit. And what you do is you can just search this on Google Fonts. This will come up. And then right here, you're going to select regular 400. And then let's embed. So let's get to the link. And then we're also going to put this within our style sheet. So let's put it right below our styles. Just paste it in. And then I have my styles open. So let's drag that and have a side-by-side. So I know right away that I want the body. There's nothing in there right now, but let's just set this up. The body is going to have a margin 0, padding 0, and then let's go back here, and I can just copy it right from here. The font family is Knit. So font family, commit, and just paste that in. Cool. I think that's all we really need to do right now in our header. So let's jump into our body code. So right now I know I'm also going to want a header within our body code. And the header, if I go to our finished file, which is what we're creating, the header is where I want to have these circles, and I want it to say my internet home. So our header is going to have 3 divs with the class circle. You scroll down there. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it so I have it 3 times. And then I know I want it to say in the middle, in my internet home. So I'm going to make an H5. And let's just put my internet home. And I know that I want this to be capitalized, so we'll get to that. Let's get to the header styling. I want the height to be 40 pixels. And then I want a border around it of 2 pixels, solid. And then I know black. I can just write black, but I'm going to do it by its hexadecimal symbol, which is 6 zeros or 3 zeros. It's up to you. And I know I want this to display flex. We're going to primarily use Flexbox to control the spacing or the orientation of all of our elements on our page. Okay, and then I want to align items center. And I'll show you why I'm doing that in a second. Basically, I want to align center because that's what's going to make these centered within the div vertically. Let's see, I want padding of my items to be top and bottom of 0 pixels and left and right of 20 pixels. And then the background color here is going to be white, and this is important just because we have a dark and a light mode. Okay, cool, so that's our header. Let's move on to the circles. I want them to also have a border. And let's see, I think this border is the same, so let's just copy that. And we lost that. Okay, I also have formatting on, so this should auto-format when I save, which is awesome. And then I want these to be round, so I'm going to give them a border radius of 50% to make them circles. I have to assign a width of 15 pixels and a height also of 15 pixels. And then in order to make them display in a line, I'm going to display inline flex. And then to space them out, I'm going to give them a margin right of 5 pixels. Cool. Let's go on to our H5, which we can select through the header, H5, and we are going to first text transform them to uppercase, give it a width of 100%, so it takes up the full width of that div. Let's align it center. Okay, now I'm going to open, let's also save our index.html, that's what we have so far. I'm going to go back to the browser. This is our final. I'm going to go, I have the folder on my desktop, dark mode. So I'm going to grab the index.html and drag it here so we can see what we have so far. And that looks great. So if we look, we can inspect the page. If I double click, go to inspect, we can see that our internet home is not directly centered because it's not taking into account the circles. So in order to fix this, what we are going to do is give our H5 a margin right to move it over a bit of 60 pixels. And I tested it, and that's what I think works best. So now if we refresh and move center, awesome. The next thing I want to focus on is creating our grid background. So let's jump back to the code. And after our header, I want to have a container div. So I'm going to start a div there. And let's give this the class content container. Jump back to our CSS. So I know I want this to have a min height so that it can actually expand. And if I did 100 view height, that would be the whole page, but I want to make into account the header that we have that's 40 pixels. So I'm going to give this a min height of 95 view height. The background size, this is what's going to control our grid is going to be 40 pixels by 40 pixels. And if you want the grid to be smaller, you can experiment with different pixel sizes. And then our background image is going to be a linear gradient, 2 right, gray, 1 pixels, transparent, 1 pixels. That looks good there. And then I'm going to do comma. And then we're also going to expand this to the bottom. Linear gradient to bottom, also gray, 1 pixel, transparent, 1 pixel. Cool, that should do it. So let's go back to our code, refresh, and we have our grid. Sweet. Where should we move on to next? I think I want to next link up our index.js, and let's jump into getting that writing. Come on. Where it's just going to say, welcome here. What exactly is it going to say? Hello there. And it's going to write on and then disappear. So after the body, we want these to be at the bottom so that it loads everything and then gets to our scripts. So I'm going to put in script source / and we want to select our index.js, and this is type text / JavaScript. Let's close that. Okay, cool. And yeah, so I'll show you how I did the write on. And I'll put this link below. Basically, this is a site by Tobias Allen, where he provides letter animation code that is free to use, licensed under MIT. So there are a lot of different options. There's like this one, and then you can click directly here to get the source code, which is awesome. So the one that I chose for this project is coming up, I believe, right here. Hello, goodbye. As you can see, it just writes on. Effect 11. So they provide for you the HTML, the CSS, and then the JavaScript. So first we want to import the library that we're using to animate this. So I'm going to copy the script source, and we want this to go above our index.js. So just paste that in. Then within our index.js, you're also going to copy all of this. Not the CSS, we're going to copy the JavaScript. So from the bottom up, and we'll walk through what's going on here a bit. And we'll save that there. Okay, let's jump back. What else do we need? We need the HTML. I'm just double checking where exactly I'm putting that. Okay. And let's put that directly in our content container div. Great. And then we want it, instead of hello, goodbye, we want it to say, I'll scroll down a bit, hello there. Save that. And then the last thing we need is the CSS. So right below our content container, I'm going to paste this in, and let's write a note. And our note to ourselves is going to be, let's just put this exact link. Code, and let's make that into a comment. So I'm just going to select this whole thing and do command not dash, slide dash. I did command and then this key. Okay, let's save that. And then I'm also going to copy this and put it into our index.js. Above there, 2 slashes, space there. So if I upload this to GitHub, now I have credited where the source and I can explain where it's coming from. All right, so we saved everything. Let's see what's going on in our dark mode portfolio. And it is writing on. So as you can see, there's some space generated above, and also our line is white, so we can't fully see it. But as you can see, that was really simple. And if I have time, I'll walk through the JavaScript. If not, no, we'll definitely walk through some of it. Okay, so let's go back to our CSS. And within here, let's make our line black. And where else do I want? Oh, I did not put this in the right spot. That's what's going on. Let's put it right above the top of this code. All right, then I want to add padding. Padding of 20 pixels, 0 pixels, and this is going clockwise, so 20 pixels is the top, then 0 pixels is the right, 20 pixels is the bottom, and then I'm also going to make the left 30 pixels. And then we're going to give it a margin of 0 pixels. Let's refresh. Sweet. I really like that. So let's look at what is going on in our index.js. Let's close all this so we can just really look at it. All right, so the first thing, which is great that they have provided a comment here, we are going to use the DOM. So this is DOM manipulation. If you want to learn further, I would suggest Googling that and really looking into it. So we're going to use a query selector on the whole document to select right into the ML11 class, into the letters. And we gave this into a variable. And then within here, we're going to assign the variable and get the inner HTML, which is our hello there text. And then we are replacing, this is basically grabbing if like we're using any spaces or like, you know, like a question mark, any of that is going to be ignored. And it just wants the letter. And then this is actually coming from their library. This is something that we really need to import the anime.js library in order to make this function. So as you can see, it's not defined. It is defined because we are importing that. And then it's going to loop. I actually want to make that false so that it only loops once. And then here is where all of the animations are happening. So if you want to look further into CSS animations, that will be helpful. We're basically just adding those to here. So we're scaling it, the opacity, the easing, what is the duration. And I hope that is enough of a walkthrough. Let's go back into our index.js and let's open our CSS beside it. So next, what should we dive into? Let's do our toggle dark mode. That's kind of fun. Well, it is fun, I think. So above our M11 class, ML11, which is where our text is writing on, I'm going to add a button. And I'm going to add an onClick function. So our onClick function is going to be dark mode. And then we'll call this. And within our index.js, we're going to have to define what that function is. And then we want this to say toggle dark mode. So let's go back to our index.js. Let's close our styles for now. All right, at the bottom is where I'm going to write my function. Just to double check, I called this function dark mode, so I'm going to grab that. Then I'm going to initialize it with the term function, dark mode. And then I'm going to select the body. So our element was document dot body. And then what's cool is that I'm going to attach element, and I'm going to attach a class that's going to toggle by that button of dark mode. So right now, because we haven't assigned anything to the dark mode class, nothing's going to happen when we click the button. Let's change that. So I'm going to go into my styles.css. And remember, dark mode right now is attaching to the body. It's just another class on the body. Let's make a comment. Dark mode code. And let's just call it dark mode. And I'm going to select, make the body have a background color of black. And color of the text is all going to be white. And now, specifically, let's target some other aspects. So I know we have a header. So let's, within our dark mode body, we're going to go directly to the header, not harder, header. And then we also want this to have a background color of black. We want to target now the border. So I'm going to go border. And I definitely want it to be white, but I also want to remember that it's 2 pixels solid. And let's also, well, let's look at what we have so far. Let's go back to what we're building. Let's refresh. And as you can see, we have our button over here, and if I toggle it, it does turn black. The circles are not present anymore, but we will get back to those momentarily. So let's style our button a bit. So the first thing I'm going to do actually is wrap our button in a div so that it's a little easier to center. And I'm going to call this class button container. I'm going to wrap that around the button. Let's save so it indents. Indenting is really helpful because it helps you keep track of what's going on, and then also if someone were to look at your code, they would more easily understand. So I'm also going to put spaces in between these elements just so it breaks it up a little bit. So let's put the button above here. So let's first select our button container. Let's text align center, so the button is centered. And let's also give it padding top of 20 pixels. Now let's select our button independently. And I want this to have more of a padding inside of the button. So I'm going to have a padding of 10 pixels. And then a background color. This is kind of a unique color, so it's hashtag 5360FF. And then margin 0 auto. And then the outline, I'm going to make none, because if we actually, if I comment that out, and we look at what's going on with our button now, if I select it, it's kind of turning blue, or it was, actually if I refresh, let's see. See the blue around it? We don't want that. I don't like how that looks, but it's already looking great. All right, so let's put the outline to none. And then we're gonna text transform. We want this button to be uppercase text. And we also want the cursor to be pointer, so it really looks like it's clickable. Sweet. So I saved all that. Let's refresh. Toggle dark mode. Looks great. Okay, back to the code. Let's look. If we just gonna refresh, we have our right on. So dark mode happens kind of abruptly. It's just dark, light. So let's add a transition. Let's go to our CSS, and to dark mode, we are going to add transition, and we're going to transition all for, let's try 0.5 seconds, ease in and out. And let's refresh. Let's see. So as you can see, it kind of eases in, out, time. So I am happy with how it eases in. Don't think it eases out correctly. So I'm going to go back down to my transition, copy that, and actually add it to the body, because this is what we are adjusting. Let's refresh. So it eases in, and now it eases out. Great. Okay, next, let's go back to our finalized version. Let's add our project little link boxes in. So let's jump back to the code, and underneath our ML11 class, so under this H1, I'm going to put another div. And I'm going to give this the class, we know our boxes are going to go here, so of box container. Then within here, I'm going to put our boxes. Div class box. And then actually I'm going to reuse our header because it is going to look the same. And yeah, looks great. And then actually I'm going to change the circles within the header and use smaller circles. So I'm going to, okay, did happen. And this is going to be class small circle. And then I'm just going to copy this because we want 3 of them. And then below that, below the header within our box div, you're going to put an H3. And our first box is the about box. And let's just separate this from the H1 so I can see what's going on. Click there, that's where our div ends. And let's copy this so we have 3 of them. 2, 3. Okay, so our second one is going to be work. And our third one is going to be other. Maybe other is where we're going to put like links to, or even a resume, whatever happens, whatever you feel like putting in other. Possibilities are endless. Okay, so let's first define our small circles. So I'm just going to copy circle, put it here, small circle. So we still want these top things. The only thing that is going to change is that the width is going to be 8 pixels and the height is also going to be 8 pixels. So below this, let's put our boxes. So first let's define our box container. And this is going to display flex. And we want to justify the content space around. And we're going to flex wrap. And let's define our boxes now. And the reason we're doing flex wrap, and space in between, as you can see, these are evenly spaced. And when I check for responsiveness of the page, it wraps down, and that's what flex wrap is doing. Okay. Now let's do our box. So we want this to display grid. Let's see what we have. Actually, we're not really going to have our boxes yet until we find the width. 300 pixels. And let's actually save this so we can see what's going on. And a height 300 pixels as well because they are just boxes. Let's give it background color of white. Let's see what we have so far. So if I go to our portfolio, we refresh, they are all in a line. Okay, maybe you caught this. I actually duplicated the box container. So as you can see, it's just wrapping around this one box. We want all of these boxes to be within one box container. And let's copy this box, place it within our box container. Let's see what's going on now. I think these should all be within div. So we're missing one div. Okay, let's double check now. And that solved it. Cool. So always double check your divs and where you're placing things. Okay, let's jump back to the box code. So we also want this to have a border of 2 pixels, solid black. We already had the background color, great. Text align center. We want them to look clickable, so we're adding a cursor pointer. Okay, great. So now you're going to add our hover effect. So we're going to do select box, and then on hover, we want this to transform to scale of 1.1. And we also want the background color to change to this 5360 FF. Cool. And then we want this to be a smooth transition. So we are going to add a transition to our box, much like we did for our dark mode, light mode. So let's transition all, 0.2 seconds, ease in out. Cool. Let's check how this is looking. So if I refresh, hover over, that looks great. So the next thing that I want to work on is when we click dark mode, as you can see, those are changing, but nothing else is changing. And even the text is changing, but the black background is not changing. So let's fix that. So let's go down to the bottom. We have our dark mode header. Let's do our dark mode box. And on dark mode box, we also want this to happen. And we know the background color, or the color is already going to change. So we actually want to affect the border color. So you're going to do this, just selecting border, 2 pixels, solid white. I think the box, let's double check. Yes, it is 2 pixels, cool. And then we also want to affect all the circles, because as you can see, those were not showing up. Dark mode dot circle. We want the border of the circle to change. Actually, we can just copy this. And then we also want this to happen on the small circles. Cool. And I think one of the last things we're going to do is add our colors. So let's select in the box, in the header, small circle, and we're going to select the first child, so nth child 1, background color of red. Let's copy this, add some spacing. Then I'm going to select the second child, add orange, and the third child, this one's going to be green, yellow. Cool. And then let's do the same thing for our header ones, but these ones are going to be on hover. So we're going to get rid of the box, and we're just going to call it circle, nth child, hover, be red, same thing here. And I did not include the period there. Cool. And this is also going to be on hover. Cool. Let's save that. Let's go back to our page and see what's going on. All right. So as we can see, the colors are here. Hover is working. These ones are also working on hover. Toggle dark mode. That looks really cool. And then if we get rid of this, we can see that it is indeed responsive. And then it overlaps. If you wanted, you could add media queries. So at this breakpoint, these would be spaced out if you added more margin. And then on mobile, it would go in a line. The unfortunate thing about mobile is that you're not going to see this hover effect, but it looks really cool on desktop. The only thing I'm not seeing is in dark mode, these colors are not happening on hover. So let's fix that too. I think that if we, in fact, just move, one second, box hover to the bottom, that should fix it. Because it should override whatever's happening with dark mode. So let's double check. There we go. Sweet. Okay, so this is what we built. Hopefully you learned something today. And that is the end of our first weekly rad website build. I hope to see you in the next episode. Have a great day. Bye.